What's up, YouTube? Mr. Lamessy here, and today I'm going to give my fairest review of Diablo 4 yet. I am going to go through each and every system within the game, give its rating, give my reasoning, and then overall give a final weighted rating for the game. Now, this right here, I'll probably title something like Buy or Refund, as I will try and just give you an overall idea of the game. Again, this is my own personal opinion for each and every one of these items in the list. Some of them you might think should be weighted higher or lower. Some of them you might think should be rated higher or lower. I could say something is awful and you could say that's something you love. We all think differently. That's okay. Not everything's just black and white, right? We're allowed to have different opinions. That being said, I want to go in and hopefully give enough information for someone to look and say, is this a game I wish to buy? Is this a game I don't want to buy? Or is it a game I did buy and I want to refund potentially? Like I say, I believe this is my fairest overall review. I have a level 82 sorcerer right now. I've been through all of the systems pretty well. I have a pretty good understanding, I feel like, of the game, what it has, where it's at, all of that. So, without further ado, let us go in. Let me do this. This will be more fun. Let us go in. So, to start out, I guess I need to make this as well. To start out, campaign, story. I give it a nothing. I don't have, this is not applicable. I'm not including it in my results because I skipped through the story as much as I could. I think the story is probably decent from what I've heard. But again, I was spamming through all of the story. I don't really know what went on. I don't really pay attention to lore. So if you're looking for story, probably somebody else is the person to ask. That being said, I imagine the story is decent from what I have heard. Now, moving on to next. Make calling me longer. Okay. Next, we have music, and I am giving music a 5.5 out of 10. And I'm giving a weight of 1. The reason I'm giving it a 5.5 is, for me, it isn't very memorable. I think the music is totally fine. I think it fits with the area, right? It fits well with the areas, and that right there is nice. But overall, I just don't remember much. I remember the Ashava fight, and I remember like one piece of music, maybe somewhere in like Act 5 or 6, where I was like, ooh, this kind of sounds nice. That being said, I do think it fits with the vibe, and it's nice overall with that. So I don't hate the music. I think it's a 5.5. We could maybe give it a 6 if we wanted even. I'll give it a 6. But I just don't think it was like crazy. Like, there's no like Tristram theme or anything like that like hit me. Nothing stuck out. It was just decent. All right, campaign playthrough. I give it a 3. And I'm only going to give it a weighting of 1. This one I feel like I could give a weight higher, but there is the skip campaign button, which I never really was thinking as something I would like. But after playing through this campaign, I love it, and I want to skip the story every time, because the campaign was just a slog. And again, I wasn't doing the lore piece. I'm not saying what was the lore of the campaign. I'm saying simply going through the campaign just didn't feel fun. It was insanely easy. If there was difficulty, it was just damage soaking, and that was it. Just like, it's just like taking a long time. Nothing felt really hard. There was a ton of unskippable text. Obviously, there was all the like skippable cutscenes, but then there was just the unskippable cutscenes where you just have to sit there and just wait for the guy to walk over and then turn, and then he talks. I'm talking like at least an hour of the campaign, and I beat it in like 6 hours probably. At least an hour of the campaign was unskippable. it was just having to sit there and listen and wait. Additionally, the density was really minimal. When you get away from the campaign and you're doing dungeons and doing other things, there's more density. But when you're just going and following the campaign purely, there's no density whatsoever. I did not die during the campaign. It was insanely easy. And yeah, it just, there was nothing. Again, the story, I'm sure, is like, if you really love lore. But, you know, like, I don't like lore, but when I play through Diablo 2 story, like, I love the campaign because there's not just all this, like, waiting. The pacing was just bad. The pacing was bad. The density was bad. It was really rough. I just could not enjoy it very well. I will say when it got to, like, Act 5 to 6, I actually started to enjoy it, but it took a little bit to get there. And so, yeah, for me, the campaign playthrough was just a lot of waiting, a lot of running around, not a lot of killing, not a lot of that stuff. This is, I think, one that is going to be very different from a lot of people. I think people probably agree with me in certain, different aspects. I think a lot of people will disagree with this because they're like, oh, I like the campaign. And that's fine. You can. But there's also a ton of escort quests. At one point, there is a 7.5 minute escort quest. Literally 7.5 minutes with like no density really. You're just escorting a dude around the desert. And I was like, oh my goodness. That killed it. At that point, I was just so done and so tired of the campaign. And I never want to play the campaign again because I just can't do 50 escorts. I just can't. One escort is enough for me, 50 just kills me. So anyways, moving on. We'll get away from the campaign. Again, you can love the campaign. This is just my feelings there. Itemization gets a 2 out of 10. And this is weighted as a 3. I think it is quite important. Overall, I think itemization is probably my biggest ask for something that needs to be fixed in the game. It's just so like complex but simple, but not in any good way, right? Not in any good way at all. Like it is. I'm trying to say. It's better than Diablo 3 because I like the affixes a little bit more. I'm not just like pure stat hunting, right? But there's a ton of like meaningless affixes, including things like resistances and stuff. Dynamic scaling within the game hurts itemization even more because you like level up and then your items are like weaker because you need to be upgrading your items. That's like so much of your power actually comes from the items. Gems are pointless. As soon as you put your gems in, you never care about gems ever again in the game. So it's like nothing there. The good thing, the like nice fun thing is hunting for rares still is kind of fun, but because there is this item power and it's like you don't want a weapon that has like under 800 item power, 785 item power. So you need to have a high item power, but you can't always tell. So you're picking up items, and then you look at them, and they just have a low item power, and so you just have to toss them. And it's like it doesn't even matter what the affixes are. If it has a low item power, it's just garbage. So that's sad. The bases are completely irrelevant. They might as well just have everything named pants, armor, helmet. Like having the different types doesn't like matter whatsoever. And so it's just very like, you just go for, all right, I'm just going for crit damage, crit strike chance, vulnerable damage, core skill damage, cooldown reduction, and you just like run for those and maybe some like resource generation or something. And it just feels bad, right? I just feel like this was a big miss. And itemization was something that, from the get-go, I was hoping and hoping that they would do more with. And they were saying, yeah, we're going to make other items like matter, magics, and whites and all this stuff. It doesn't. Your whole endgame build is just legendaries, and maybe a couple uniques. And so, you know, it's like the imprinting the aspect is kind of fun. But I also feel like the aspects are also kind of sad because it felt like there was going to be a lot that would give you a large variety. And there's like 120 aspects or something, maybe 150, probably like 120. But then you have to remember there's 5 characters and many of the aspects are specific to your character. And then further, they're specific to your build. So like there's aspects that are like crackling energy. All right, well, I'm an ice build. Burning damage. Well, I'm an ice build. Your fireball. Well, I'm an ice build. And so like when you actually look at it, there's only like 10 aspects that you actually are going to be using, 10 to 12. And then you have all your pieces of gear and they're all going to be legendary. So you really just put one aspect on each one and then there's like 5 you don't use or something. So like a lot of it, there's a lot of illusion of choice within it. But when you get down to it, you just have this, right? You just have these pieces. So that stuff is sad to me that there's just not a lot. It feels like it seemed like there was a lot more potential, but then with how everything scales and everything, it's like you just kind of, this is what you do, right? And so it just didn't feel that great. Moving on to action, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 with a weighting of 3 as well. I feel like it plays very well like a modern ARPG within the action standpoint, right? It's an ARPG. I think the action of this game is quite decent, right? I like the pacing for when you're out of the campaign and you're kind of moving around, running around, killing stuff. I think it fits extremely well with that. I'm having fun with it. I think, you know, again, a game like Path of Exile, any of these modern ARPGs, the action style gets a little overtuned, and I think it's a little overtuned here as well. There's more emphasis on action than RPG, but I can still respect that from, you know, the current world of ARPGs. This fits right in there in that fun way of going around and killing stuff. So I think it just does it well. I think the action is quite on point. From an RPG standpoint, I have it as a 4 out of 10. I'm going to put it to a 5. I think it's the same for many modern ARPGs. Again, there is just so much focus on the action that the RPG, the role-playing game piece of it, feels kind of removed. I don't feel as attached to my character as I would in the previous days. And I think a lot of that's just because it's just build and spam and fly around and kill everything. And so I think this is just true. I don't think any of the modern RPGs get over a 5 for me, honestly. I think this fits just as well for the other ones. But I do feel like there is still some, and I have this completionism here, and I think that plays a little bit into the RPG standpoint, which gives me some feeling that I enjoy somewhat with it. Builds, I'm going to give a 5 out of 10 as well, with a 2.5 on weight. It suffers from itemization and the scaling. I think that is some of the biggest pieces. And then additionally, there's just not a ton of like build options within classes because you only have like certain core skills, right? It's like I'm playing ice shards, I'm playing, you know, chain lightning, I'm playing whatever it is. It's like you have like a few core skills and that's the main thing you're going to be using. And so a lot of the builds just don't, there's just like not a ton. And then if there wasn't such scaling as well on damage, I think that would improve other builds as well, right? Because it's like, oh, okay, I was playing Firewall, but then Firewall just fell off. And it just really, and the scaling of this was just better. And so, you know, I just feel like builds is in the middle, right? It's like There's some builds you can definitely play. There's not just like one build to play, but I think they can do some work with it and it will improve right there. Completionism, I am giving an 8.5. Oh, the weight is missing on this. I think I said a 2 for that. Maybe a 1.5. We'll leave it as a 2. It feels really nice having all of the different pieces to complete in the game. Getting the statues, going around and doing the renown. The strongholds are a lot of fun. There's really a lot of like good things to go and kind of do to complete everything. I'm like excited to continue looking around and going and completing more of the area and more of the world. So I think that's really great. The only knockoff is the side quests, I think, are the least interesting piece. There's many side quests that are just like, just kind of bland, a little confusing, not super fun, right? So I feel like side quests are a little bit, you look worried, or do like the emote quest or whatever. Cinematics, 9. The only reason I give it -1 is because there's no like easy way to go and play the cinematics. I can't just go to like in the start screen, have a cinematics button to play it. I just want to watch the cinematics again. Otherwise, Blizzard always knocks it out of the park on cinematics. It is absolutely amazing. And so I love the cinematics that they have. But yeah, the fact that I can't just have them to watch again is disappointing. That should be in the main menu. PvP, I'm giving a 9 as well, which is much higher than I thought it would. Now, this could go down because it's still kind of temporary. We don't have everybody on their level 100 builds all stacked out and everything like that. But I was doing PvP at level like 40, 50, 60, 70, and it was a blast. It was honestly super fun. We were just in our parties, running around, blasting each other, just a bunch of dudes shooting at each other all over the place. I was very surprised, but this might be the most fun I've had in the game, is playing in the PvP arena. So yeah, I'm very happy with the PvP right now. We'll see. Like I say, damage scaling is getting a little crazy, and will it just get too ridiculous? Potentially. But I want to still see how it goes. My biggest issue, it doesn't take away from my 9 out of 10. Biggest issue is visibility. It is hard to tell a monster from a player if it's too many things around. So that's the biggest issue. Number 12, quality of life. I'm giving it a 5. There's definitely some quality of life in this game, but I think this could be a 10 out of 10 easily. I think this is where they can really improve the game. Easiest to improve. Gem tab or a bag, overlay minimap, a loot filter would be so freaking good. Being able to filter the items you're looking for. Drop item from your inventory key. Turn off all the text, not just the numbers. I mean, each one of those is another point to me on the quality of life right there. I think this would be super, super easy for them to improve, and I would just, the big win potential here. Aspects not taking slots. Yeah, it's kind of strange. Aspects have this slot bag, but the gems don't. I don't know. Confusing stuff. Anyways, I think that's where they could have 10 out of 10. Super easy. Overall UI, I'm actually going to give a 5.5, which is higher than I thought I would. I do think it still looks mobile and console. But the more I've played with it, the more I have felt like, okay, I'm like used to it. It's not like terrible. I don't love the UI, I don't think it's amazing. Like I say, I still think it has really that like look for a different, not for a PC. The skill tree is one of my biggest complaints, and the paragon boards. It's like very spaced out and hard to like navigate around and stuff. But overall, as well, with like the bar down below and things like that, I think it's okay. I think it's okay. Ease of access, I'm giving a 5 as well. I think at the start of the game, it's easy for somebody to get into it. But I think when you get to the end game, it actually will just be confusing for a lot of people. Again, with like the different affixes and all of this stuff, I think there's just a lot of like confusion. Like burning damage is not fire damage. Resistances are actually worthless, but damage reduction from close enemies is much more valuable. Like there's a lot of like issues like that are really just going to confuse people. It just doesn't make sense to a casual player of the game. You really have to go and look and study it. And so I think there's plenty of room here to improve it. Just the way that the itemization is currently functioning, resistances don't actually give you much value as opposed to other affixes. Burning is fire. Fire isn't burning. I believe burning was not actually applying under fire. Regardless, burning and fire should be same, but there's still just confusion and there was another thing. It was like I had stuff that was like plus to frost skill damage, plus to cold damage, and I had to go and like look up and figure out, okay, so frost is the tag of the frost, but there's no tag of cold. Cold is just overall cold. It's confusing. Monster design, I give it a 6 actually. Again, a little higher than I was kind of expecting. I think there is some identity to some of the monsters. I think some of them, there's some decent like movement and fighting with them. It's a little bland though still, and I still don't quite fully care about the monsters specifically. But they're all right. I think monsters have done okay. Endgame, I'm giving a 7. I think it's a little bit lacking. Things like the Tree of Whisper, bounties stuff, like it's just not interesting. There's not really like a shaper boss or something to really go try and go after. The world bosses are terrible. They're just like pure sponges that are easy as can be. And they don't really have like a lot there. But I do feel like going around and going through the dungeons, going through the PvP zones, going through all the different areas has still been kind of fun. And I think I'll eventually get tired of it. I think this is going to be too high for many people of a number. But I've been enjoying my time just kind of leveling up, doing the different pieces. I have enjoyed the end game at about a 7 out of 10, I would say. The worst part right now is there's the one map that is the one dungeon that's the best place to farm experience, and so instead of going around and like unlocking more of the glyphs and whatever stuff and gaining the experience for those, we're just running the same map over and over for experience, and that's the worst part. But I think if that was like not there, it would be much more fun. Bosses, I give a 3. And again, you can see the weighting right here. So a higher weighting means it has more overall weighted rating. Right there. Stagger bar is cool. Otherwise, I think the bosses are pretty lame. I don't think the bosses have like the Diablo 2 has terrible bosses, and I think these bosses are just as bad as well. And it's sad because you see games like Path of Exile, which has amazing bosses and amazing boss fights, and that just did not translate over here. There's maybe like the Lilith fight is kind of fun or something, There's like a couple fights that are like okay, but overall I was pretty disappointed with compared to the other modern ARPGs. I think there's a lot better fights in all of those games. Spells, I give a 7. Balance is kind of difficult, but I do feel like the variety is not bad. Again, I've played on my way up. I was Chain Lightning, then I was Firewall, and now I'm Ice Shards. And I've enjoyed each one of those builds. They have played a little similar, I do feel, which is my biggest complaint. I felt like it's weird, but on a sorceress with your barrier and all of that, you're just kind of always diving in the middle and then just like attacking from the middle. So I think that part is, a little bit whatever. But I do feel like there has been some variety in the builds that I've been able to see. And so, that's been all right. And the spells themselves have been kind of cool and interesting. And then you get some of the, legendary aspects and stuff to improve them. Social is a 2, and honestly, this could even be a 1. Social is absolutely terrible in this game. I don't even know where the heck I'm supposed to find a party to play with. If I didn't have friends, where am I supposed to find people to play with? There's no global chat. There's no trading market. There's no I don't understand. It's supposed to be an MMO, but then you're also supposed to be by yourself, and there's no lobby screen, there's no anything. I'm so confused. No, because at least in D2, I could I'm looking at games from a lobby screen. I can find people to go in. Hey, the game is called Kill Mephisto, Act 3 walkthrough, and then I go into that game, And it's not like that's even amazing social. I think D2's social needs to be improved as well. But again, at this point, especially from this game, I imagine there would be town hubs and markets and channels of talking and all of that. And there's just none of that. It is so barren. And I want to trade for a good rare wand, but I have absolutely no clue how I'm supposed to trade for a good rare wand. It literally is forcing me, if I want to go trade for a good wand, to just go off site to a third-party site. Because I don't know where I'm supposed to go look for those things and all that stuff. I don't know. Again, a huge place where they can have massive wins. But it just doesn't right now. So I think they could improve this score greatly. This game could have a great social aspect, and it would make the game even more fun. But right now, I'm having the fun because I'm playing with my party. Party play, I'm giving a 9. When you have a party, this game is actually really fun. I think this game is built for couch co-op, right? It is a really fun time to just get in a group, go around, do the dungeons together. Let's bounce back and forth, have fun. I think it's been really fun. The worst part about party play is that we can't trade or give each other things that we find. If I find a unique that would be good on my friend's character, I can't just give him the unique. I think it's account bound to me, unless I somehow just haven't figured out how to do that. But I think party play is quite high and quite great for this game. Damage scaling, I'm giving we'll give it a 2. I'm really disappointed in damage scaling because on launch, we've already seen people doing billions of damage. They did hot fix it down to just be millions and millions. But this was something from the beginning they talked about. We're not going to let damage get out of control. And already it feels like damage has gotten out of control. And this is day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. And it's not about the number, right? Again, I've talked about before, it's not just the number that's big. It's the way you get to the number, the way damage scales, the way all of that stuff happens creates a lot of issues for balance, creates this idea where meta is so important for all of that stuff. Yeah. So I think this one gets a lower rating because they talked it up. They said they were going to really focus on this, and then it still is already scaling. And now we're just going to have Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, Season 4, all of these things. And power creep always enters in these games. And I'm just super worried for when we're just going to get crazy Diablo 3 numbers again. Monetization, I'm giving a 4. I think the game is overly monetized. It is not pay to win. They have worked hard to make it not pay to win. The cosmetics seem overpriced for a full price game. The battle pass in general, the separate currency to buy, the bundles. I'm actually going to a 3. The more I talk through it. There's just a lot of monetization and pieces that they've used that are the, FOMO, the idea that the shop rotates, and so it's like, oh, you might not be able to buy this skin soon, buy it now. A lot of that stuff. And this is all within a full price game. It's rough. It would be 0 out of 10 if it was pay to win. It's not. I'm giving it a 3. I think even that's generous. I'm just going to stop talking because I'm going to keep lowering that score if I keep talking. But moving to the next piece, cosmetics. This isn't paid cosmetics, just cosmetics. I'm giving a 10. My character can look amazing in the game for free. I don't feel the need to buy skins, which also is kind of why monetization gets a slight boost. My characters and all of the items look so good. I've seen so many amazing looking characters. I think that is a fabulous part of the game with how great you can look without having to put money in. 10 out of 10 on that, for sure. Unlike PoE, where my character looks like a bucket head until I pay money, and then he looks ridiculous, right? All right. Graphics overall, I'm giving an 8. I think some spells bring it down a little bit. I think the game looks really amazing in some spots. When I go to like the Tree of Whispers and things, I'm like, oh my God, this is 10 out of 10. But then overall, I can't tell which act is which a lot of times. The whole world kind of blends together, which maybe that's what they're going for. But there's not enough color and contrast overall in the world. And some places really gray out for me, where everything just kind of like blends across. And so that brings it down for me. But like I say, the overall graphics I think are still really impressive. Entertainment, I have 6.5. I think overall, this is, it's been fun. I don't think it has been this 10 out of 10 game where I'm like crazy addicted to come back and I'm like, oh my God, there's so many things I want to do. It feels like it's missing a lot of content still somehow. But I'm still having fun, especially because I'm playing in a group. I'm still enjoying going around. The completionist in me really is wanting to go continue doing things. I'm still happy with it. I do think getting CC'd kind of sucks. I agree with that. That's actually, my entertainment would go up if monsters didn't have like 5 seconds of crowd control on me, where I'm just sitting there waiting because all my spells are on cooldown, and so I can't use a spell to get out of it. So I'm just like frozen and stunned or whatever stuff. And you just have to like watch yourself slowly tick down. Also with monsters, I hate how many monsters explode after death. Kind of annoying. Anyways, moving forward. Performance, we are giving a 9.5. There's been a few bugs where I like fell through the ground. I've crashed, I think, 4 times. in like 60 hours probably. But it's been high quality. Will this adjust if we get server, error 37 on actual launch instead of early access? Potentially. There's definitely some FPS drops here and there. There is some lag. But I would say for a game coming out, performance has been pretty good quality. There's just minor lags here and there, but it really hasn't been that bad for me. It might be slightly worse for some other people. I think it's pretty good. Maybe it drops to a 9. 9.5 is a big number. But I think overall, the game is in a pretty good state, especially compared to how most games are released nowadays. Resource management, I'm giving a 3. I don't even look at the screen. I just look at my cooldown bar half the time that I'm playing. Especially as a sorceress, because every time I use a skill, I get barrier. And so it's just like super important that I just always have a skill being used when the barrier is off to put the barrier back on. And that to me doesn't feel amazing. I don't love that. Additionally, when I was playing through the game, through the campaign, I was always out of resource. It was so, oh my god, I hated it. Because then I'm just sitting there using my stupid generator spell on nothing. I would just generate on literally nothing so that I could get resource so I could actually use the spells I want to use. I would rather have mana potions that I'm spamming so I can at least use the spells I want to use instead of just having to generate resource. Yeah, I just did not like it. Developer communication, I'm going to give a 9. I think they do a great job at sharing overall. Just they're sharing their knowledge. They're willing to listen. They talk about what they're changing, even if it's not stuff that is agreed with exactly. The fact that they're really working to discuss and interact, I think, is really, really solid, especially for a big company. It's been really interesting to see how much they are discussing. So I appreciate that, how much they've worked with us. The horsey, the mount. I thought I would hate the horse. And before you get the horse, the game especially feels really far apart. You're like, there's a lot of just running through barren land with no monsters whatsoever. But I'm giving the horsey a 10. I absolutely love this stupid horse. I don't know why. I'm sure other people are going to feel differently. The horse clips a little bit. It's clunky. It doesn't always run right. I don't even care. I love running around on this horse. It's so dumb, but for some reason, this is one of my favorite parts of the game, is just hopping on the horse and like rushing over to get the next Lilith or shrine or something. I don't know. Hard to put into words, but I love my dang horsey, man. Is it a short-necked llama? Maybe. Maybe that's why I love it more. Who cares? Moving on. Paragon boards, I'm giving a 5. I think that's even maybe slightly generous, but I can see what they're going for with the Paragon boards. They're just bland. They just right now are so like basic. You just have your board, and honestly, I mean, I'm not going to do all. It's just like stat, and then you have your rare node. Rare node. I'm playing sorceress, not a single legendary node I actually go for. By the way. This is the Paragon board right here. And without like any time whatsoever, you can very quickly just optimize it because it's so simple. Again, it has almost an illusion of choice to it, where it's like, you think that there's a lot of choice, but then you get to it and it's like, oh wait, there's just a very clear path to get to this node, and only the rare nodes really matter, or the legendary node maybe, not for my build. And so it's just take random stats to get to this, big boost in power, go to the socket, big boost in power, go to this rare node, big boost in power, and then take stats and get off of it. They're just so simple, and part of it is because of the way that the meta currently is, because it's like, this would also be one I don't use, and this would be one maybe I don't use, and so I don't even go over here, you know? They're just so simple. It would be so much better if these, first off, didn't just give stats, but actually gave like other things that mattered, other affixes that were interesting. And then additionally, if there was just like more rare nodes all over the boards and stuff, and they were like less powerful, but it was more stuff where you're like, ooh, maybe I want to go this way and go up here, or maybe I want to go grab this and then grab this one. You know, it's like, there's just so much potential for it, but in the way that it currently exists, it's just nothing. And there's not even the idea, like in the Path of Exile skill tree, there's like, you're still going to optimize of how you should go, but there's still like, oh, I could kind of go here and take this, and I could do this. You know, you still kind of like have some semblance of ideas of how you'd like to go with it. Here, it's just missing. So I think there's room there. But I get what they're going for. Crafting, I'm giving a 5 as well. It is the most basic thing ever. It's just you craft, you find an item and you can remove one affix and put one of 2 new affixes on it, and then you can just re-roll that one affix over and over. That's all that it is. It's very simple, but I kind of don't hate it just being very simple. I feel like, yeah, it's fine. You know? It's nothing. It's fine. I feel like it's a slight downgrade from the D3 version, but I feel like there's also room to grow. I think this is a system that they'll build out later. It could maybe be a 4. I don't know. It's okay. And lastly, systems, I am giving a 5 as well. I feel like they just played it safe with systems. I feel like they copied a lot from Diablo 3, from Diablo Immortal. They just didn't take chances, right? Even like the crafting is a great example. It's like, it's a simple, basic system. It's totally fine, but they didn't take a chance. They didn't try and create a new system that is awesome. Systems are just all of those different pieces. How items get built, how crafting works, how salvaging works, how any and all of those things exist. There's just not a ton of innovation within the game. And so it makes it feel a little bit mid. So that is the overall ratings for each and every different piece of the game. I have then weighted it for what I believe is more important. For instance, I think itemization is more important than music, right? And then we have the overall weight right here. Then this is summed up and divided by the sum of the weights to get us our final rating of, I don't even know what it is now, 6.11. So a 6.11 out of 10 is our final rating for Diablo 4. I think that honestly is a fair rating for where I'm at. And I believe it has the room to grow because there's stuff like social. I mean, if you boost social up, that could raise it to a 6.5 just by improving social, right? Itemization be a huge boost as well, right? I mean, there's like, you can get this to a 7 to an 8 with just fixing damage scaling, itemization, and social, and then quality of life, right? You're already at like a 7.5 to 8 right there. I think this is a very in-depth critique of the game, which is going to be much different from a game journalist who gets the game and plays it for, a few hours and goes through the campaign and then goes, oh, cool, that was 9 out of 10 for me or whatever, right? This is looking at each and every system within it, which I think is a important piece to do, but also requires a lot more time, a lot more thought into it, all of that. Whatever. No, I mean, if you take the horse away, if the horse is a 1, it's still a 5.96, right? Again, like, because the weighting on horse is low, it doesn't boost it that much. What do I give D2 and D3? I mean, I love D2, so I'm definitely going to have it higher. D3 is probably lower than this. I would need to go in and do the same rating weighted scale on all of it. Right. And this is my own opinion. Again, you can love this game and it can be 10 out of 10 for you, and that's totally fine. You could hate this game and it could be a 2 out of 10 for you. I think, looking through the weighted rankings and all the rankings right here, there's definitely difference. Some people, music is 10 out of 10. Campaign playthrough is 10 out of 10. Other people, they say, completion, it wasn't great. Overall UI, it's a lot worse. Cosmetics, I think there could be better. Monetization should be 0 out of 10. There's definitely going to be a varied, again, this is all opinion. This is subjective. So this is my review. I think overall, if you like D3, you will love D4. If you like D2, I think there is still potential to enjoy Diablo 4. Again, I think if they improve itemization, if they improve the damage scaling, and if they improve the social aspects, I would come back to Diablo 4 and play Diablo 4 some more. I think once I get to 100 and get all my renown and do all the pieces, which will be like 120, 100, whatever hours. I think once I get through all of that, I'll probably be good with the game. We'll have to see. I'll probably go into the PvP zone and just run around and fight in there. If that's really fun, then I'll probably spend more hours doing that. If not, I'm not sure that I'm going to continue to grind D4 over. I think the replayability is a little lacking. I feel like I'm missing content to go do. There's no, again, where's my Shaper? Where's my Ubrit, Ziri, and Elder, and all of these things? Yeah. So we'll just have to see. But I think there's some key pieces. And again, if they can make itemization more interesting, then I'm more excited to go and find items, which makes me want to play the game more. That's such a big thing that Diablo 2 does have, even though it doesn't have endgame, really. The itemization is so fun. The affixes are so fun to search for. The bases are so fun to search for that it's really fun. And I want to go and do that. And kind of you have that in this game. There is a little bit of searching for the affix hunt, but there's so much stuff getting in the way of it that it isn't, it just isn't quite there. So, anyways, I hope that you enjoyed this review. Let's be respectful in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, YouTube. Peace, everybody.